Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our session in conversation with Kids Biz, building the brand from the ground up. Here are our speakers, President Hasbro Studios, Stephen Davis, President Saban Brands, Ellie Deckel, and VP Animation Development and Production, Marvel, Court Lane.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice that we had a sunshiny day today. I hope you had some time to enjoy the sun, maybe a lunch outdoors. The list of names we just heard is not exactly right, so we're going to introduce ourselves again, just for purposes of clarity. I'm Ellie Deckel, President of Saban Brands. We're here to support the launch and international distribution of Power Rangers, which is coming back in a whole new way. And very excited to be here at NATPE and my colleagues on the panel.
So you were expecting, you're expecting Steve Davis, who's the president of Hasbro Studios. Unfortunately, Steve's really sick. And when we say sick, he's pretty sick. He's over in LA in bed. So my name's Finn Arneson, and I'm the SVP of International Distribution and Development for Hasbro Studios. So I'm rolling out the international distribution, setting up the international kids business for Hasbro Studios, both in terms of distribution to worldwide broadcasters and in the studio developing our existing brands and new IP. So that's me. So I'm not a master of disguise. Steve's not here.
And I'm Court Lane, Vice President of Animation Development and Production for Marvel. I've been at Marvel for nearly 3 years, before that at Mattel. And it's my responsibility to shepherd our original productions and our co-productions and licensed productions.
So this is intended to be a conversation, and with that, we invite you to participate. So if we touch on a subject that is of interest or perhaps you would like more clarification, please, there's a mic here in the center. Don't hesitate to jump up and toss us a question, as long as it's one that is an easy one. We each come from companies that have a combination of content and consumer brands in some way, shape, or form. Hasbro certainly has been a consumer products toy company for many years and has evolved into a content company. Marvel, a content company that has been extended into consumer products in lots of different ways. And Power Rangers, a brand that has kind of transcended many different media.
Cost me a lot of money over the years as well. Thanks.
And thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Which comes first? Is it the brand or the show?
I'll field it from a Hasbro point of view straight away. I think it's a really interesting evolution for us because, as you said, Ellie, Hasbro is or was traditionally a toy and game company. So what we're seeking to do now is kind of expand that remit into all forms of entertainment. We have this sort of blueprint for success, which is to make ourselves into a branded entertainment company. Lofty thing to say, branded entertainment company, but it's kind of true. So what we're doing is, you're kind of examining all those brands, and we call them vault brands because, I think you were talking about your thousands of characters. There's about 1,500 brands that have been created over the years at Hasbro, and you've really got to take a long, hard look about which one of those brands is going to work, not just as a retail piece or as a toy and game, but actually as a piece of entertainment. And it's not always going to be a TV series. It might be something online. It might be some new way of looking at something. It might be a short form on Facebook. Who knows what it will be? So
might be a comic.
Might be a comic book. So what we're doing is literally examining what brands in our vault are worthy of recreating, reimagining, and developing for entertainment. I won't restrict it to TV, it's for entertainment. So that's the question, which I think we're here to discuss.
For Marvel, it's similar in that we have a library. We have over 8,000 characters, and they've all been explored as entertainment, at least in publishing. So there's a process whereby Marvel discerns, is this appropriate for a larger audience? Out of 8,000 characters, there's a very small percentage that we think are really worthy of, being up on the big screen or an animated series, and then we go to show or movie, and then licensing. Now, sometimes the order is a little backwards, and I think that's, your licensing suffers as a result.
Right. Yeah.
I would suggest that in today's market, particularly with young viewers who have been in their short lives exposed to a very intense media saturation, a culture of media saturation, in almost any market that's no matter what it is today, it's dramatically different than what it was a few years ago. It seems to me that it all has to work together, and that kids today seek out properties and brands and characters and stories that they recognize, that they can relate to, that can give them more than just the passive viewing experience on television.
Right.
And I think that's really a key factor, is that there are many more ways to engage with an audience, and these stories, these characters, these brands that become stories and characters,
right.
have many more platforms on which to go now.
Exactly, and I think that's, sometimes it almost seems kind of harsh to have that conversation, but you're right. I mean, look at there's a lot of clutter out there. There's a lot of fantastic shows out there, but if you take a snapshot of what's actually popular and what's resonating either online, on TV, take the example of The Hub, right? Not commercially, it's not a commercial for The Hub, but the reimagined Hasbro properties are doing really well on The Hub, because amongst all of the channels and all of the noise out there, some of the well-known brands that have been around for a very long time do well, and I think we all benefit from that. So, and even,
but they had the benefit of still being toy products.
Sure, yeah.
For a long time and until recently.
Or original series, like take Transformers or Pony. They were series in the 80s. Now I think they're wholly sustenance is here.
Thank you.
I think those have absolutely benefited from being rebranded and relooked at, and they're made in a creative way. And this is, for me, this is the crux of the matter. You can take a really solid brand that, as you said, court's been either a toy or a movie or a game, and you really have to get the creative right. I think we'd be fooling ourselves to think that, yes, there's an existing brand there, something that's got real resonance for many years. But if you're going to redo it, you have to do it with great creative, you have to do it with great execution. And you're right, you can't always do it. You can't assume it's going to work, because I think our audiences, especially in kids, see through that immediately.
Right.
You have to build your property very, very well. And I think, as you said, you have to build it together for all platforms.
Marvel actually has had to educate kids so much about characters that they had no awareness of, but we knew had a huge adult fan following and 40 years of storytelling. But before the Iron Man movie and animated series and all these other efforts that went behind Iron Man, kids had almost no awareness of the character.
Right.
And so every character moving forward is really a new brand for kids. And we have this vast library of content behind that character, many ideas for stories, supporting characters, and we can judge which have been the best stories throughout all of these years that we can tell with these characters for kids today. But an education has to take place, and there's sort of a multi-platform program that we have to start to build the franchise. And it's been a little harder, I think, than Marvel thought, whereas I think Hasbro, Transformers is an exceptional toy brand. It's not, but you could still make a weak TV series, but you guys made a great TV series.
Thank you.
And a few big movies to boot as well.
But you go in with that kid awareness and kid affinity for the brand up front.
So well, that's
the opportunity is not to disappoint.
Exactly. That's the really interesting about Transformers, because those movies, I mean, having Sam Witwicky in that character, like he's a 17-year-old, 15-year-old and growing, that opened up a whole new audience. Mm-hmm. And of course, we had the dilemma that, that was essentially a teen and adult movie, but it was being watched by 5-year-olds. So nowadays, with the third one coming out soon, plug, you've got to realize that everyone's going to watch that. Like 6, 7-year-olds are going to watch that, and then the rating is like a 12.
So not everybody in this market has a Transformers or a Spider-Man.
Right.
How do new and emerging ideas, maybe even old ideas that are being rebooted, can they cut through this and make an impact?
For us, I think, you have to really judge each property. We've been going through that exercise on several properties in our library, pretty obscure ones that probably nobody in this room knows. And when you break it apart and try and tell stories for kids, you see where, okay, this works, this doesn't work. Then when you decide, okay, this is a character who could be a franchise, not right now, but 5 years down the line, then we have enough shows in production now that we can start to introduce these characters as guests in our existing shows, to test them out with kids, to introduce them to kids. We have the advantage, we were discussing earlier, that it's a shared universe. All of our characters interact together. It's one of our strengths. It's something we have incorporated into our feature films. and we're doing that now in animation. And so we can build awareness of these characters over time in a variety of series before they're ready for prime time, really.
Right. But you can do it both ways, as you said. You know, you have that embarrassment of riches.
So how important is it then for a television show to have all the other off-air activity as well?
I think it comes with the territory again. You know, focusing on the kids' business, you kind of have to have everything. You have to have the ancillary. If you're working with a network who's going to put your show on air, they're not looking at the TV. They're looking at the TV, the online. You're going to have the digital assets there. There's going to have to be some kind of game component. Yeah. You know, and you know, even I mean the sophistication now online of some of the gaming. You know, we used to be at a kind of like DS level, but now it's much better than that online. You know, so the broadcasters naturally are going, where's your asset? How are you extending this range? And so there's a whole heap of stuff behind the.
So when in supplying programming, we're all challenged to deliver more content in more formats, in more ways of executing the brand.
And I think you actually need to have some differentiated addition to the content for almost every platform to make sure that you get featured well on that platform. So your broadcast partner wants something special that only they have. You'll need something for VOD. You'll need something definitely for your home video release. Everybody needs something special that they can market around because the content's available on so many platforms. We did a rather risky experiment with Avengers, and I think it was really successful. We developed 22 micro episodes. They're about 4 or 5 minutes apiece. They string together in sequential order to form 5 22-minute episodes, but they can be broken apart into these 22 micro episodes, if you can follow. So, and what we did with them is we gave every partner an option on how they wanted to use them. And in some cases, international markets, you can say, okay, you know, you can use them as micro episodes, but home video is only able to air them as 22-minute episodes. Or a partner like Disney XD in the US used them both ways. They launched them online first as micro episodes to introduce kids to the characters, and then they started running the micro episodes in short form as interstitials on broadcast. Then they ran them as regular full episodes. And so it was sort of a really flexible toolkit that every partner can use separately. And still, in addition to that, you need behind-the-scenes footage, you know, B-roll of the cast. You need bonus material about the characters for home video. It really becomes a separate production plan beyond the series for all those other pieces you need to create. Right. So that's what we've experienced. And I think the Avengers experiment was really successful. And the flexibility can be confusing to partners at first, particularly international networks, but once you spell it out for them clearly, they'll make a decision on what's best for them.
Right.
It's also true that young audiences today, when they resonate with a program, they want to engage with that program. They want to go online and find this content. They want to post it to their social networks if they're old enough, and now that's becoming even younger. They want to chat about it. They want to talk about it in school. They want to have social expression through the property. So as content suppliers, which ultimately we all are, it's important that we think about how do we serve that need. In success, that becomes a very hungry beast to feed. Not only do you have to deliver episodes, you have to deliver a lot more. You have to deliver ways of engagement. Right. You have to deliver a universe. You have to deliver a mythology, and all those things come into play from a content creation standpoint, where you just have to be ready and willing and able to engage on all those levels.
Yeah, right. There's almost like an industry behind the industry, as it were, going ahead. Having said that, that's interesting. Just anecdotally on that, you know, you look at a 6 or 7 year old using an iPad, and they're like, "Where's your content?" And you're like, well, we haven't made it yet. And that's really, they just assume there's going to be the equivalent of, let's plug Angry Birds, because everyone's talking about it. You know, where is your Angry Birds? And of course, as Court said, you know, you've got to be really careful about which brands you're rolling out. If Transformers or My Little Pony doesn't suit that, there's no point in just sticking a tag on it and like making the iPad app for Transformers. It's not right. It's all got to come from great writing, storytelling, and as you said, find that point of difference for each application. Otherwise, again, people are going to see through it. It's not going to be great content. We really, I mean, I'm a stickler for it because it's fairly sensitive that we are working with these brands, especially internationally. You know, there's some rules and regulations that are interesting. Oh, yeah. So it's really important that creativity is at the heart of it, and you apply those to all the different things.
And so then comes the new turn of phrase, transmedia.
Yeah.
The idea and the notion of telling stories and across these platforms so that as kids or any fan or viewer would engage, they could not only get more engaged, but also get benefit and reward from experiencing the brand in other ways. So you watch the show, you learn it, you watch it. It's generally a passive experience. You can transcend that when you go to interactive tools and online tools. And that higher level of engagement serves to reinforce your audience.
I mean, I agree with you. It feels like it's almost becoming like a cookie cutter of like, here's your tools and this is what you must do. But I think the way you do that, transmedia, and tell different stories across comic book or TV is really important. Because at the end of the day, we are talking about stuff that's come from a play pattern, you know, in most cases, which is, you know, Jeff Gomez has got it figured out, hasn't he?
I think he's talking in the next hall over.
Right. All right.
Are there any questions or thoughts or anything you'd like the group to address?
It's a microphone. Can you do the microphone,
go to the mic?
Yeah, sorry. It's hard
Thank
to
you.
Thanks.
So the development process is complicated enough as it is with any organization. And I'm just wondering from your perspective, with Disney having acquired Marvel, what does the Disney process inform that? Does that make it more complicated or less complicated, or, you know?
Surprisingly, I get that question a lot. Here's the reality. We're run as a separate business unit, so in much the same way Pixar is. So currently, I'll be honest, they're not informing our franchise choices. What they do bring to the table is all the support. For example, distribution of our shows, we were handling ourselves, and it was insane. And I love the DMD folks. I helped them set up their suite yesterday because I'm so grateful to them because they handle all of that. What they can do is bring more eyeballs to the properties, which is so important for Marvel. And that's currently where we are. I think until we sort of do a co-production kind of venture, it's going to be us driving the franchises. They certainly are very interested in making the shows relatable to kids, and we are too. So we're on the same wavelength there.
I know you discussed creating content that ultimately is going to resonate with its audience. If you could talk a little bit about the process of avoiding, or in the process of creating the content, ultimately creating content that's a shill for
exploitive,
a product.
You know, I think we've said it in different ways, but it's, you know, when you're developing, say, for a television series, and you're building your creative universe and sort of the tone and the voice of your show or your property, it's important that you understand the sort of the underlying DNA of that voice and that look and that tone and what it stands for, and really honor that and respect that, and try to make sure that any extension of the brand or enhancement of the brand, if you would, no matter what the category, if it's a physical product or a live interpretation, that DNA has to be embedded within. That those same raw ingredients that make it work in one format need to be reinterpreted in those other formats. And if you're true to that, then you can usually rely on the fact that you're being true to that and that your audience will recognize it and appreciate it. And that means that all of these new opportunities for content aren't exploitive or derivative, they're additive. They're adding to the universe in a way that's positive as opposed to diluting or perhaps as, exploiting from that. So we look at it that way.
We have like a checks and balances thing. Obviously there's a brand. If it started as a toy property, there's obviously a brand, and what is in that brand's DNA. So you have to investigate that and see what the do's and don'ts are from that original brand. If it doesn't make sense to then turn that into an entertainment property, and you can't tell a story, or you can't highlight a group of characters that actually expand that universe and that world, then don't do it. And we're fortunate that we're doing that. We have quite a good setup now, and it's early days for us at the studio. But you have a brand team, and then you have development team at the studio, and that causes interesting conversations, obviously. But at the end of the day, if the show's coming out of Hasbro Studio, it's coming out of Hasbro Studio, and we'll drop stuff that doesn't work on for TV or for entertainment. But at the heart of it is about entertaining people, and you can entertain people through a toy property, but you really have to make that next leap. So it's a checks and balances thing for us at the moment.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Donna Drake, and I host Live It Up. But I'm not here on behalf of my show. I'm actually here on behalf of asking you guys a question, which is why I want to sit in on your session. I have a daughter who's 17, graduating, and she wants to be an animator. And I'm trying to encourage her as an artist myself. Yes, go for it. But my question to you is, knowing that you have the pulse on the industry, do you have advice for people that still want to get into either be an animator or to work in your industry? Is it traditionally good to go the old-fashioned way with an internship, and are those opportunities still out there for her? Just looking for a little bit of advice, so when I go home I can say, hey Elise, guess what? Here's a tip. So thanks.
That's a good use of your time. Your daughter will be pleased. Do you want to field it?
Yeah, because I get this a lot too.
Yeah.
Internships are one good way. There are also mixers. I mean, you probably need to be in Los Angeles, to be honest. There are mixers that happen almost every monthly by a consultancy called OnePlus Hub. And different studios host them every time. Marvel just recently hosted one. Titmouse does it frequently. That's a great place to meet people and ingratiate yourself to them. And then I think really there's two paths. One is as a writer, and from there becoming, somebody who develops shows, and even if you are a character designer, starting as a writer, and that's about being an apprentice to some other writer and cleaning up their scripts, and then maybe they become story editor and you get a shot at a script. It's very hard. And then the other side is as an intern, and then eventually you become a production assistant, maybe have a shot to do some boards, and you become a storyboard artist, and then from there you go to director. That's sort of the path that I see right now. It's challenging. So many people want in the business, and you sort of have to be in Burbank. It's crazy, but it's true.
And it is challenging from, if you're going that traditional path of going to animation college, that's a whole other set of things.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you a European example. There's two really good studios in Paris, right? Whose name escapes me right now because I'm jet lagged. But there's one of them, it'll come to me in a moment, Supin Faucom, right? The guys from there come from all over the world. They get really good training. They come out as decent board artists, right? And then Disney, Nick, Cartoon, now Hasbro, are parked outside as they graduate, and they go, you, and it's all about your work and how good you are. And then when you get in that studio, you're starting from the bottom up, and you'll literally be, as Court said, you'll be starting from the bottom. So I don't know if she's going to go to animation college and actually do that, or she's trained, but it's a combination of just being great. She's at CalArts. Well, there you go. Uh-huh. I don't know if that helps, but it's,
I will say there's so much more work in animation right now and coming up over the next years than there was 2 years ago. In my mind, it's almost doubled.
Yeah.
The other thing I would add is younger generation now have tools that only professionals had a few short years ago.
Right.
So developing someone's own work and their own portfolio of experience, even from their laptop, has as much value as what school they went to if they have talent.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Salberg from Green Dreams Productions. How are you?
Fine.
I decided to create and publish a book to go with my content. So I have a published book children's series with my animated sizzle. But living in Atlanta, Georgia, we have the Puppetry Arts Center. I decided to create this children's camp on my product and had a summer worth of Jumbo's Journey, which is my product. And would you recommend going in for, I had puppets made and toys made. So would you recommend getting your toys distributed first, or would you go in with the distribution of the content and the book?
I'll take this.
Yeah.
Getting retail support for any product is increasingly difficult. Even some of the biggest brands in our respective portfolios, we fight for every square inch of shelf space. So you need to manage your own expectations about retail and how you think about that, especially if it's driven by something else. I think the notion, and if you look at the title of this conference, it's building from the ground up. The idea that you're building grassroots awareness and you're seeing firsthand reaction from consumers and parents and kids and moms, that you need to build on that. You need to have that help you evolve to the next level, help you expand in your community and hopefully expand beyond that. And make sure that as you think about extending this property into consumer products or other applications, then you do so carefully and do so with respect to the creative you've created and respect to the audience who would want a particular experience coming out of that. So it's really about the content first. Now, if you started as a product that then went into other areas, that's a different conversation. It sounds like you started with an idea, then a content, and that has become now product or could become product.
Was your first idea writing and publishing, did you say, or was it a...
Publishing, yes.
Yeah.
I'm an author, published author now.
Right.
Yeah.
But now there's an animated series that goes with it and toys. So, but I was thinking that I should go with the published.
Yeah,
book
start
series.
with your content. That the bridge from content to toy is a big one and a difficult and expensive one for all concerned.
And to be honest, retail has a long memory. If you try and you're not ready, and there's not enough affinity for your characters or property in the marketplace, that second chance may never happen.
Right.
Retailers will not take the chance on the property again.
Yeah, you should just make your published books the best they can be, and that's going to grow from there. You have to sort out your character and your story, and as Ali said, that's a huge leap into toy. I think sometimes people come at this saying, I've got the toy, I've got the book, I've got the game, I've got everything ready, and I don't think that's, as Ali said, from the ground up.
Correct.
Start with where the heart of that piece of creative really is.
And Marvel and Hasbro are a little more ambitious about getting the toy out soon after the launch of the content.
Yes.
But we also have IP that has a long history, so that's a little different. I'd say in a perfect world, like coming from Mattel, when you generate IP, you generally have to wait a year, maybe year and a half of that show being on a major network with a lot of eyeballs before retailers and frankly consumers are ready for the product and excited about it.
You're right. We have big debates with that now. Again, it's the evolution cycle. I agree with Court. You got a new show coming out, especially one that's been built from an existing brand. Make sure that show is on air and kids all over the world are touching it, resonating, watching it, and then get them ready for the next wave of whatever it is. I totally agree with you. We are sometimes quick to
ambitious.
So we're running short on time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to ask, we've got a few seconds each to plug your biggest project here at the show.
I'm not going to plug our biggest project. I'm going to plug, because frankly, already sold. They're sold in so many places. I don't have time to review the casting in Bulgarian or whatever. But we're working on an Ultimate Spider-Man show. And I think it's going to be the best show that Marvel has ever produced. We've only produced 2 animated series before this, so on our own. And we are so excited, and we're taking the time to do it right, and spending the money to do it right, and thinking about it for a very long time, and had 7 scripts.
And this is animated, and when will it be ready?
Probably February 2012.
Okay.
And it's so exciting, and I think Disney brings sort of a level of expectation, scrutiny, that I think has only encouraged us to do our best work even. So that's very exciting for all of us. We're all thrilled.
Finn?
I would say it's, I mean, obviously the ramp up for us is the 5 properties that we're rolling out worldwide. Transformers, the new CGI Transformers Prime, which is awesome. Again, from a US audience point of view, it's already on the hub, so many of you will be familiar with that. But we're rolling that out internationally, so it's worldwide distribution of that. Same for My Little Pony, which we've reimagined for a new audience for girls 4 to 8. And then we've got Pound Puppies, which is really interesting because that's a smaller brand that no one really knew about, but we've created a TV series out of that. So it's those 3 properties, including G.I. Joe and Chuck. But those 5...
And I must say, My Little Pony is one of the best shows on television.
Thank you. I mean, Lauren Faust,
no,
right?
Really is.
Lauren Faust.
You have to see it. It's been getting a lot of recognition.
I was at Cartoon Network for many years. We worked with Lauren on Powerpuff Girls and Fosters. I mean, she's a great artist. So it's about worldwide distribution of our shows outside of America. So there you
go. Great. And I, for one, have one particular show. We're going to leave you with a short little video of that show. Sorry, guys, I snaked you on the video. But please enjoy, and thank you for being here today.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good one.
They may look like 5 ordinary teens.
That sounds like trouble.
So much for my normal day.
But the power of the universe is in their hands.
Rangers together, samurai forever.
Make way for the Power Rangers.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
In a brand new series, it's time to team up.
I've been planning for this since I was a little girl.
Let's do this thing.
Suit up.
We can do anything as a team.
And power up.
How about a lunch break? You'd be amazed at how well I practice after a few slices of pizza.
Bad guys beware.
If you believe in yourself, you can win any battle. Confidence is what brings power.
Power Rangers Samurai, the brand new series. Coming in early 2011.
Samurai forever!
Only on Nick.